recent past president of WCR. She's a graduate from UCLA, go Bruins, with 2 degrees, one in history, one in English, and she worked for 23 years as a VP of Sales, Marketing, and Training with Blue Shield. But you know her as being audacious, bodacious, and courageous, so I'm going to bring up Angelique Simpson.
Oh, it's working, good. I know many of you think I don't need a microphone, but I think in this room I will do that, definitely. First of all, thank you guys so much for coming out today. It's great to see such a fabulous crowd with great faces in the room, and many of you said you came out today especially to see me, so I am honored by that, and I thank you in advance. The good news for you is that I plan to deliver on the promise today. So the conversation today, the title of it is called Wow Them with Professionalism. Winning conversations and questioning skills. So you're probably wondering, well, what does that mean? So I'll start off by asking this question. How many in the room have ever had a sales encounter that was terrible? Just about every hand in the room. Now, how many of you have ever had a sales encounter that you walked away being wowed? And you thought, wow, that was probably one of the most professional sales opportunities I have ever experienced. How many? Did you notice a lot fewer hands that second time, right? Well, part of it is probably because we remember the bad, and even if we didn't know what they did wrong, self-consciously, we know when we are heard, when we're appreciated, and when we're valued. So very quickly, before we go on the presentation, those of you who raised your hand and shared that you had an exceptional experience, just share with us real quick, just, what made it exceptional? 1 or 2 words, what made it exceptional? Anyone? Focus. Communication, professionalism, knowledge, prepared. All right, all excellent thoughts. Well, in today's presentation, and my presentation is very different from what you're used to. This will not be just Angie with the microphone talking to you. This is very interactive. So I'm going to share with you a few tips, a few skills that will help you in your communication. And this will help you both in your interpersonal communication as well as in your personal and business as well. So we're going to share some information, and then there's going to be audience participation. You will be asked to actively participate. At the end of it, you will walk away with a few skills that you can utilize today to improve your communication skills. Does that sound fair enough?
Yes.
Are you guys ready to actively participate?
Yes.
All right, so let's go. So when we talk about presentations, one of the things we need to think about when we communicate is our ability to be perceptive is in inverse proportion to how much we worry about ourselves. You see, if we are unnecessarily afraid, worried, anxious, or concerned about ourselves, we just don't have time to perceive what's going on around us. Does this make sense? I'm going to give you a very lively example of how this happens. Hello, my name is Angie Simpson. I'm very pleased to meet you, Sally Smith. Now, how many of you have ever met someone and 2 minutes later forgotten their name? Oh, thank God. I thought I was going to be the only one that had that experience. Okay, so this happens because, and this part's going to hurt just a little bit. This happens, keep going. This happens because in that moment, we're more focused on ourselves. We are preoccupied with ourselves and more focused on the impression we were going to make. That's the hurting part. Then the introduction and less focused on the other individual. Now, it hurts just a little bit, right? Okay, I want to talk about that a little bit. We're focused on ourselves, but that does not mean that we're full of vanity and we're talking about, oh, how great I look. But what happens is, it's called inside chatter. So what happens is, my husband takes me to a business dinner, and I'm standing there with him, and he's about to introduce me to his boss and his wife, right? And as she walks up, I think, oh my God, I'm so underdressed for this meeting. He didn't tell me I should have dressed up. I'm going to kill him when I get home. Right? Meanwhile, while I'm having all that inside chatter, the introduction is happening. So you see how that happens? We are so focused on ourselves and the impression we're going to make that we just don't have the bandwidth to focus on anyone else. Now, the good news for all of us is this happens to everybody. And there's a name for this. This is called the egocentric predicament. Okay? We all have it. The egocentric predicament. We get focused on ourselves. So today's talk is really to help you talk about how can we quiet that inside chatter and focus on the people that we're talking to be in the moment with individuals and really hear what they're trying to tell us. As you shared earlier, the exceptional presentations or conversations that you have is when somebody zones in and listens to what your individual needs are, when they hear you. We all know someone that when we talk to them, they walk away, we go, wow, she's just a great lady. Or he's a great guy. Right? You know who that person is. We all have them in our lives. And it's often because in those moments that they just said, hey, how are you? They remembered simple things. Maybe your daughter or son's name. They remembered you just went on vacation somewhere. They really clued you into the conversation and drew you in. Right? So we're going to talk about what the egocentric predicament does to each and every one of us and how we can champion ourselves past this. Jeff is my clicker today. So the egocentric disposition predicament gives us two attitudes. And we're going to talk about that first one. So the first side of the quadrant is that our brain is going to make us, Jeff. The first side is going to make us, keep flipping, is the I must make a sale disposition. And you exhibit salesperson behaviors when you're doing this. So what do salespeople do? They're pressuring, right? They're pushy. They're focused on themselves as opposed to others. They hurry their response. They don't listen, right? You know the old adage that we have two ears and one mouth, that we should use them in equal proportion, right? In their correct proportion, but we don't. Everyone in this room has probably been very guilty of over-talking their clients to death. And it's because, unfortunately, we do a lot of this to trick ourselves. We say that we're the area expert, right? We're the real estate expert. We know everything. Well, you know, we're going to talk a little bit about why that presumption gets us into a little bit of trouble. So the next position, manipulative as well. So that's your first position when the egocentric predicament is number one. The second predicament and the second challenge is where we want to be. And that one is, I'm here to solve a problem. Right? So when you talk to your clients, you're not here to make a sale. You're here to solve a problem. So what kind of what kind of behaviors do you exhibit? Well, you put on a counselor's hat, don't you, when you're trying to solve a problem. And what counselors do is they listen. They're interested in what client wants. They ask questions. And we're going to come back to that one. They problem solve. They provide information about how others have solved the problems. Is there another one? And they demonstrate honesty and integrity. Who wants to be in number one? What? Yeah, nobody wants to be number one, that side, because you don't want to be that salesperson pushy. But we've probably, each and every one of us have probably been there, right? Not necessarily meaning to, but how many of you have been in this situation? You go out to meet a client, and maybe it's your third listing presentation for the week, and you haven't gotten the other two. And you're kind of broke, right? And you're thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to nail this presentation. I really need that sale, right? That's a reality in our life. So the challenge again is to quiet that inside chatter. That's about you. That's when you know you are face to face with the egocentric predicament, and proactively quiet that inside chatter to say, Angie, you are here to solve a problem. Focus on who you're dealing with. When you do that, your clients then see that you're there for them. And you're probably sitting there thinking, oh, Angie, I know this. I know how to do this. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay. And I'll show you how you do that. Our brains are designed to give us information, factual information. So when we think about needs-based communication and we think about the need to ask questions, we think of our business and we recognize we ask a lot of questions in our industry, don't we? A lot of questions, and they're important, aren't they? So share with me some questions that you ask your clients. Just throw them out. Let's hear some questions.
How many bedrooms?
How many bedrooms do you need? What else?
Have you gotten pre-qualified?
Have you gotten pre-qualified? A great question.
Why are you moving?
Why are you moving? That's a great question. What else do we ask?
What time frame do you want to move in?
What time frame do you want to move in? Anything else?
What do you owe on your mortgage?
What do you owe on your mortgage? Let's hear another one.
What area are you in?
What area are you looking for? Now I want you to recognize, Vince, you have what?
Any special concerns you may have?
Here, it's a great question. Any special concerns you may have?
Why are you moving?
Why are you moving? Great. So I want you to recognize that most of the questions that we asked were fact-finding questions, weren't they? And they're all relevant. We need to know all of that to solve their problems. Ladies and gentlemen, your brain is a computer, and it operates on a need to ask factual questions to solve the problem. However, this becomes a bit of a challenge. So, we're going to play a little game. And this game is going to require that I put a puzzle on the board. And when we look at this puzzle, I'm going to ask you to ask me closed-ended questions to solve the problem. Now, closed-ended questions are those kinds of questions that allow the answerer to say yes or no, black, white, short, or tall. And we're going to see if we can solve the problem. Let's see if we can start. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I skipped something. That's it. So, before we do that example, we're going to talk about their needs, because I need to set you up for this a little bit better. So we talk about the kinds of questions that we ask, and we ask fact-finding questions. How many of you remember the old Ford model? You know, talk about their family, what's their occupation, their recreation, and their dreams. You guys remember that? That was around in sales for many, many years. I want you guys to think about utilizing the word needs as a model. Because remember I said when you're a counselor, you focus on your client's needs, right? So Ford is good, but that's when you're trying to build rapport. When you're trying to engage and peel the layers of the onion to get to the root problem or the root concern, needs is a phenomenal model to utilize. So N would stand for what do they have now? And that's very relevant, isn't it? We want to know what they're coming from. The first E would be what do they enjoy about it? That's also relevant, right? We want to know you're in a condo. What do you enjoy about that? The second E is going to be how or what would they like to expand about where they live. The D is, and this is always a critical one, we don't want to miss this one, who is or who are the decision makers? And many times, and I've noticed this particularly now, sometimes there's many decision makers. And we want to make sure that they're all at the table. And S are what are some possible solutions for them. Does that make sense? So it's a good model for you to remember if you're on track with helping them proactively to help them solve their problem. Now that I've shared with you the needs model, here's the exercise. Again, the puzzle's going to appear on the wall. You can ask me closed-ended questions only to see if we can solve the problem. Now, for those of you some of you have heard the presentation before, or you might have seen this example, please do not ruin it for those who have not. It's kind of critical that you make the mental jump along with everybody else, okay? So here we go. Here's the puzzle. A man is at home. He's wearing a mask. Another man is coming. What's going on here? All right, you can ask me closed-ended questions.
Is he at his home?
Excuse me?
Is he at his home?
Is he at his home? Yes.
Is he ill?
Is he ill? No, he is not.
Tell me.
Come on, active participation, remember? Question?
Are you ready for Halloween?
Halloween? No.
Is he a painter?
Is he a painter? No. Call him out because there's a glare in the back. I can't see if your
Does he
hands
know
are
the
up.
other man?
Sorry, what was that?
Does he know the other man?
Does he know the other man? No.
Does he know the other man is coming?
Does he know the other man is coming? Yes.
Does he have a job?
Does he have a job? No. Is he going skiing? No.
Is the man wearing the mask the one at his home?
No. Yes. In the back, I think, Stephen, did you have a question? He's like, no.
I was going skiing.
Yeah, you were going skiing. All right, so we have Halloween. We had somebody ill. We had skiing. A painter. Do you guys see what your brain is doing right now? Do you see the perceptions? Do you get the visuals of what's happening? Right? Now I want you to understand that you do this every single day. Your brain gets basic parts of information and then gives you a perception of what you think it is. But we still have not solved the problem, have we? And we had probably 10 questions so far. Right? Halloween, skiing, somebody was sick, and a painter. All valid perceptions, but all of them are wrong.
What kind of mask?
That's an open-ended question. So now we're going to transition this because open-ended questions allow the answerer to share information that is critical for you to solve the problem. So now you can ask me open-ended questions to see if we can solve it. Let's go.
Why is he wearing the mask?
They're dying for that. Why is he wearing the mask? For protection.
What kind of mask?
Another, two close-ended questions. Protection mask.
A baseball player.
Another close-ended question.
Protection from what?
Protection of what? He's protecting his face from something hitting him in it. Is a catcher for baseball. There you go. Yeah. You know, I wish you guys could be in the front of the room and see this as Yaha happens. Yaha. I want you to focus on what we just did here, ladies and gentlemen. And notice two things. Did you notice when we first moved to open-ended questions that my first 3 questions were still closed? That is very common. Our brain is designed to fact find. So we utilize closed-ended questions to get factual information. Who, what, when, where, how. Because we want to solve the problem. But I'm here to tell you and share with you today that closed-ended questions shut down conversation and communication. So open-ended questions, and I have some of the ones that I love to ask are, tell me a little bit more about that. So if someone says, and I want a house, and Angie, it's really important that I have a big backyard. Most of us would say, okay, big backyard, check. So how about saying, tell me a little bit more about that? Or what does a big backyard mean for you and your family? Or how about, tell me a little bit about what's important to you in the relationship you have with your realtor? Open-ended questions. Or how about a magic wand question? If you had a magic wand and you could do something with this house that would make it perfect, what would it be? Would that be a good question to ask? Absolutely, and it engages them. So what happens is this, and this is an actual situation. I had a gentleman, and he kept telling me he needed a backyard, a big backyard. And I probably showed him 3 or 4 homes that had everything else that he needed, and it had the backyard. Well, nothing was moving him. Nothing was making him take that next step to buying the house or making an offer. And so I said to him early on, after the 3rd house on the first showing, I said, tell me a little bit about this backyard. He said, well, I need it to be big. I need a certain amount of space in the back. And I said, and what would you be doing in this backyard? And he said, well, Angie, I'm an attorney, and I have a very, very stressful job. Every single day I'm dealing with really the dregs of society. So before I come home to my family, I tend to spend about an hour gardening because it helps me decompress my day before I go home to my wife and my 2 twin children and my little boy. Is that a different picture than a house with a backyard? It's huge. So ladies and gentlemen, the difference between asking a closed-ended question and an open-ended question takes you light years past being a realtor and puts you in the driver's seat of being that counselor. How many of you want to be in that spot? Absolutely. Now, do you think that then when I started to show him property, my conversation changed a little bit. And I was able to say, James, I am so excited to show you this next house. You shared with me that having a backyard with a garden opportunity is important for you. This next house has a great little sunroom in the back that opens off into a little alcove that has a hill little area where the previous owner had a vegetable garden and a rose garden. I am so excited to share this with you because you said it's so important for you to decompress before you get with your family. I can't wait to show you that property. What do you think I just did when I shared that with him? Tell me, how do you think he felt when I said that?
Validated.
Heard, validated, listened to. Absolutely. It's a little different, ladies and gentlemen, than here's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with a backyard. This is the deeper connection. This is the difference that makes you irreplaceable to your clients. And this is not just for real estate. I think for anybody who's in escrow, who's in title and in lending, no matter what your business is, dealing with your teenage children, I use this all the time with my daughter. Tell me a little bit more about this part you're going to do. That works pretty well. So that's what we're doing. And this was a good example, I think, on showing you the difference between open-ended and closed-ended questions. And I challenge you to spend more time asking the open-ended questions. So, now that I got you kind of engaged in the questions, I'm going to give you guys an exercise that you're going to do at your tables. We're going to take 2 minutes. Now, my husband is here, and he knows that I am probably the best questioner in the world. He gets sick of my questions, so literally he'll say to me, "Oh my God, already, no more questions, Angie." Because I do. I ask a lot of questions. So, but most of us are not in the practice of asking questions. So I want you to partner up at your table, and here's the game I want you to play. You have to have a conversation only asking questions. So your partner's going to ask a question. You don't answer the question, you answer the question with the question. And I want you to utilize both open-ended questions and closed-ended questions, and we'll talk more about it. So you have 2 minutes. Everybody participates. Ask these questions.